Hey everyone, and welcome to 15 Minutes to Merge. We're with you this week to talk about DevOps and GitHub and open source learning. Before we get started, I want to introduce our very special guest, Michael Cade. Michael, welcome.
Hey April, lovely to be here.
I'm so excited to have you on the show. I'm a big fan of what you've been doing with DevOps and open source learning with the community and all the cool stuff you've been doing around the world. But so for everyone joining who actually may not know who you are, they should know who you are. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
So yeah, cheers April. So I'm a technologist. I work for a company called Veeam Software. So not very DevOpsy actually. We focus on protecting workloads, protecting data. I've been here for 8.5 years. So my world very much is the infrastructure and operations side of the fence. Started off with storage and virtualization, and then over the last couple of years, I've been more focused around the cloud native, cloud type workloads, and that gave me that urge to go and learn a little bit more about this DevOps and platform engineering type terms that we hear today out in the wild.
Absolutely. And I think your learning journey is a great example of how you've shared that with the world. So go ahead and introduce us to what 90 Days of DevOps is and how you've made it kind of open source learning for everyone out there.
Yeah, so much like anyone from the infrastructure and operations background, really, is that if we roll back to 2022, I've been kind of learning my way through the Kubernetes world, the cloud native world, cloud as well, and I had a lot of knowledge around things like Terraform, infrastructure as code, and configuration management with Ansible, some good hands on experience with Linux, networking. But I was missing a lot of the other terminology and the buzzwords that we hear around DevOps, things like CI/CD or continuous integration, continuous deployment. Git was a skill that I didn't have, and we'll touch on that in a little bit more detail as well. But really, the project was, well, it started off as just me creating these public notes and keep sharing them and stay consistent in what we're doing. So we started off on January the 1st, 2022, and you see that we went into a bit of an introduction. Just again, notes. What am I doing? How am I getting here? Then what is and why do we use DevOps as a big picture? Then we started by learning a programming language, and I wouldn't say you're going to learn a programming language at all in 7 days, but I think actually you can get the foundation. You can definitely get the fundamentals of a programming language. Now, I each of these sections are split up into the big picture, a bit of theory about that. So some of the options that you might have. So as you can imagine here, from a programming language point of view, do you start with Python? Do you start with Golang? And that seems to be the two, or maybe even Rust now from a DevOps point of view. I chose Golang because our code for Kasten is written in Go. And then we get on to some hands-on scenarios as we get further down into that week. And then we jump into Linux, we jump into networking, the cloud provider. So I say about learning one cloud provider, sticking to one cloud provider, and in this instance, we started off with Microsoft Azure, and I think that sets us up very well to have a good understanding of any cloud. Then, regardless of which one, it allows us to understand the cloud fundamentals for Azure, so that we can have a better understanding for that. Then we went into Git. I'll come back to that one shortly. Containers, Kubernetes, infrastructure as code, configuration management, CI/CD pipelines, some data visualization and monitoring, and then storing and protecting your data. I had to put something about storing and protecting your data because ultimately my company were paying me as I was doing this. Um,
Understandably.
so if we go back, and I'm not saying at all, no one's going to be an expert. You can't spend 7 days on Kubernetes and be an expert, right? And ultimately, what are these? There's 7 blog posts here around Kubernetes. If you could learn it that quick, we'd all be amazing, and everyone would be using it, right? Um, but just to kind of go into a bit more of the Git side of things. So this was all me. This was my notes that I was writing. If we go, um, some of the terminology that you'll see within Git and Git-based services, things like viewing and unstaging, disregarding or discarding. And basically, I'm walking through, taking screenshots as I go, looking at things like Git diff, Git status. What have I uploaded to my repository? What not? What's happening with all of my files? And I actually walk through that and document what that looks like, add in some text, And this really is a hands-on section that gives us some hands-on and fundamentals of Git and Git-based services. Because if we then jump down to the social network for code, I would love to see a session about this as well, April. I think we could do something.
We could do
Um,
something on this.
if you think about GitHub, it is like the social network for all of our source code, and it kind of brings me back to why did I put this in GitHub? I put it in GitHub because I wanted a version control system of being able to understand what's changed since the last time. But equally, and I didn't know this again at the start, it was me eating my own dog food and learning as we went. But equally, it has been a massive benefit for us, because if we go back to the top of the page, you'll see here that it's been translated. The whole repository has been translated, but not by me. I struggle to speak English, by the way. But there's a lot of different other languages that have been translated into. So I feel like it being in Git has enabled that to be quite easily maintained and contributed to as well. So that was kind of the very high level overview of what it is. In 2023, though, what we did was we went out to our friends in the community, and instead of me writing 110,000 words again, I found some subject matter experts, and one of the things that we really did miss out on was the topic of security. So I found some friends that were able to help me, and you can see the topics here: secure coding. How do we integrate that security aspect into our DevOps learning? And then there was some areas that we missed out on in 2022, things like Python as a programming language, AWS, OpenShift, databases, etc. And then finishing up on engineering for day 2. So that brings us up to date as to where we are, April. So that, yeah, there's probably about 200,000 words in total. Lots of hands-on, lots of big picture, lots of words. I also started to document some of these in the video format, and doing my best Primeagen impression, where I'm actually just reading through those first 6 days and then publishing them on YouTube, and they seem to be useful for some people, apparently, from a feedback perspective.
I think people learn in different ways. And what I love about what you've done with 90 Days of DevOps is, when I had a similar journey to you, I was in the ops space. I actually moved into development and into cloud native a little bit earlier. And it was a natural, not transgression, whatever. Again, I struggle with English too, right? Whatever. It was a natural progression for me as well to move into DevOps, because I started moving to the cloud, and that was in 2013. So I didn't actually start using GitHub right away. So I think it's great that you went immediately to GitHub, highly used platform, but it's also shareable and it's scalable. And that's what's really great about it. And I think, one of the reasons why GitHub has been successful is because we do reach so many developers and so many folks out there. And I love that this is made available for everyone. And I don't want to speak for how your career started, but when I started my career, like, these tools were not available for us. We didn't have sharing platforms. And when then GitHub came around in 2008, it just wasn't something my company wanted to use. So we've seen a lot of, progression to how people are using the platform now. And this is fantastic. So I love it. I love it's been translated. We've been inclusive to different cultures and different languages, which I think is phenomenal. Because again, I still also struggle to speak English. So I love what you've done with it. And I think what's also cool is you've grown this, but then you've also grown it as GitHub's grown. GitHub, started off as source control in 2008, and it's grown into a whole platform with so many other things. And I think this year's set of videos that you're putting out in the next couple months are going to be more focused around GitHub, using the platform, some CI/CD options around that, and some other cool features that enable more easier DevOps adoption.
Yeah, exactly that. GitHub's not just that source code repository dumping ground for all of our projects and code. It's great for open source learning, but things like GitHub Actions that I actually cover in that as one of the days, we look at GitHub Actions. But yeah, to the point of what are we going to do next, and I think, why are we doing it next? And I think this number here, and as much as this is a vanity metric for me, in that it doesn't really dictate as to whether we should continue or not, but this has been growing at a rate of knots. I look at this as like Facebook likes or
Yes.
Twitter likes, and impressions that way. But the fact that this is still growing and people are sharing and people are still commenting on the repo and people are still joining the Discord tells me that we should keep going, especially because you never stop. One of the things that I've definitely learned over the 20 years, I know I look younger than that, of learning is that you're never done learning. You're always going to be transitioning. Whatever me and April are learning now, in another 5-10 years, we'll be transitioning into another area. Not that we have to lose anything that we've learned before,
It's
but it's
building
that
blocks.
constant change.
It's
Exactly
building
that.
blocks. And I think what I
Um,
love too about seeing this is the discussions you have set up. So people can communicate, ask questions, and talk about their experiences because we all come from different playing fields. But the ability to communicate on the platform directly and where they're learning, I think is really cool, and get the feedback from yourselves and everyone contributing all the content.
so yeah, for 2024 that will start on January the 1st again, is that instead of us doing some written material, although that will be here as well, we'll see every video that we got. So the idea here is that I went out with a call for papers and tried to get 90 people, 90 unique people, 90 unique sessions in that sphere of DevOps, and we managed it. And I have actually another 15 that are like as a reserve, and they won't go to waste either. Is that so? Come January the 1st, we'll start publishing these to that YouTube channel that is focused on that open source learning. Meanwhile, in here, let's find day 30 because there's someone on there that you might know.
I've
And
heard of her. I've heard of her.
so how GitHub delivers GitHub using GitHub. If we when the session comes out, April will have the opportunity to put in some speaker notes or anything that's going to be useful alongside of the video. It might be also where we store a link to the presentation that April uses, so that we're still using this as a source code, because we know that these sessions will go out in 2024, but come 2025, people will still stumble across this. There might be updates to that. So we want to make sure that we continue that whole version control vibe of this whole learning in public. And then who knows what happens after this. Ask me on March the 31st, which is actually 91 days because it's a damn leap year in 2024.
It is
But I've got something hidden up my sleeve for that.
awesome.
But yeah, so the whole point here is continuing that learning in public, making everything accessible for everyone, and the whole sharing that. And if you're not spending your days on YouTube like I am at the moment, then you're watching stuff on other subscriptions. So why not spend the time watching stuff that from people in the community that you learn from.
Absolutely. Well, Michael, I appreciate you sharing this with everyone. I think open source learning is amazing. You've really set the tone for DevOps learnings. This has transpired over 3 years. And I love that GitHub's your chosen platform. So I love that you keep reiterating on GitHub as well, which is awesome. That's true DevOps style, right? So you've embraced it, you've lived it, you've breathed the culture. So Michael, thank you so much. And for everyone out there watching, you can access 90 Days of DevOps coming at you January 1st. So learn some DevOps practices on GitHub and look at some awesome new content, and reach out with any questions in the show notes. And we'll put links to all the resources in the description. So thank you all, and see you all next time on 15 Minutes to Merch.